The gaming industry is in a very bad state. We are seeing tons of layoffs, tons of arguments over titles, and lots of big failures like Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Star Wars Outlaws, Unknown Nine Awakening, tons in 2024. But now we're finding out the gamers are, in fact, sick and tired of new games because the Steam replay for 2024 reveals only 15% of total playtime spent was on new releases. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I say this all of the time. There are so many amazing games that have released in the past. Play your backlog if you do not like the moves that companies are making in current day. If you do not want to support the activists that hate our guts, watch playthroughs of video games, find other ways to consume the product that isn't directly monetarily supporting these companies. It's why I live stream most new games that are big, especially ones that I talk about on the channel, because first of all, it's important that I form my own opinion and I don't just go, oh, I hate this game, even though I haven't played it. But I also think that it's a good way for you guys to actually see what the content is like before you swipe your credit card. Maybe you'll watch a playthrough of a game you thought you'd hate and you love it, or maybe you thought you'd love it and you ended up hating it. But it's clear that we cannot just blindly support these companies anymore. We have to do research before we buy games, which is absurd. Though now Steam's Replay 2024, which was previously called Year in Review, revealed that just 15% of total playtime across the entire service was spent on new releases. So as noted by Steam, the Replay is a custom report for each account that shares how many games you played, how many achievements you unlocked, your longest login streak, and how it all compared to the previous year. There are also graphs depicting what kind of games you played and other pieces of data showing playtime by month, what you played, even playtime across your Steam family if you're part of one. And as part of the custom replay, one of the charts shows your breakdown of how much time you spent on new releases, like games released in 2024, recent releases within the last 1 to 7 years, and classic games releases from 8 or more years ago. So this is really not surprising at all. It also compares your data to all Steam users. For classic releases, time spent hit 37% of the all time spent on Steam. For recent, it was 47%, and for new releases, it was only 15%. So definitely not a good look for the modern gaming industry. While, yes, there have been a lot of good releases in 2024, don't get me wrong, Black Myth Wukong, Stellar Blade, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom, Princess Peach Showtime, Mario vs. Donkey Kong. There have been some good ones. There have also been a lot of bad ones. Dustborn, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, Unknown Nine Awakening, Dragon Age, The Veilguard. There's been a lot. And I quickly wanted to show off some numbers from over the past couple of years. So of course, in 2024, it was 15%. In 2023, it tanked to 9%. So it is up a little bit, though not by much. And in 2022, it was actually sitting at 17%. So we've seen it fluctuate quite a bit over the past couple of years, but 15% still isn't good. None of these numbers are good. It's not like we've seen a 25% or a 30%, and I don't necessarily think that is going to happen because there is such a massive log of games on this platform that are older. People are always buying them, they're always checking them out, and while there are a lot of new games that release every day, every week, every month, and every year, none of those games have done insane numbers except for in 2020 for Wukong, which did 2.4 million players, but again, that's not enough to, save all of these stats for the whole platform. The article points out that, yeah, I mean, the executive producer of Assassin's Creed, had noted during a fireside keystone at the External Development Summit in October that developers are not only competing against other studios, but they are competing against their own back catalogs. This is the problem with companies deciding to go in a new direction with franchises. Look at something like Dragon Age the Veilguard. They wanted it to come out and to be a smashing success, but because they changed it so drastically, people decided, you know what, I'm not going to monetarily support this. I'm just going to go back and play the other amazing Dragon Age games like Origins, for example. When Kill the Justice League came out last February, so almost a year ago, there was a massive spike in players on Steam for the other Arkhamverse games. I did a full string of playthroughs of all of those games leading up to KTJL's release because I knew it was going to disappoint. I knew I wasn't going to be happy. I knew it was going to be a disaster, but I wanted to play those nostalgic experiences because I absolutely love them. And so many other players did too. It's funny, but Kill the Justice League only peaked at 13,000 players on Steam, and all of the other games had more players in them, giving them a playthrough instead of KTJL. It's just so funny because those games, some of them are over a decade old, a decade and a half old. That's crazy that a new game that they dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into ended up being such a massive fail that these other games are doing significantly better. That is just the power of gamers, and companies need to realize that when you have a franchise that is amazing for a certain reason, you really shouldn't move away from that. Yes, you need to kind of modernize things like visuals and storytelling elements. Like, you need to do something bigger and better. You can't just always have the one character doing the same exact thing, which is like, oh, saving somebody specific, or oh, they're going to look for an ancient relic. You need to, in a lot of cases, do something a little bit different with twists and turns. You need to be able to recognize the new technical advances from your last game, but ultimately you need to still find a way for it to have that charm that made the other games smashing successes. And you do not need to make these games for new audiences, aka sensitive snowflakes on social media, because the modern audiences do not show up to buy video games. Furthermore, though, Mark Kern had called for a moratorium on all AAA woke games earlier this year. Now, while you can definitely do this, I never sit here and tell people to buy or not to buy something unless they ask my opinion on it. And they're like, would you recommend I spend the money? And I'll say, absolutely not, or yes, totally. Though, in general, I don't like to tell people to boycott things because that's what these activists do. They love to tell you guys what you should and should not be doing. Like with Wukong, oh, you shouldn't be buying that. You shouldn't be supporting it because the developers are sexist. Hogwarts Legacy, oh, you shouldn't be buying this game because it monetarily supports a disgusting human being, aka J.K. Rowling. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys to do that, but I will say when there are games that I would highly recommend you do not buy because it is not worth your money, and these individuals affiliated with the projects do not deserve your time and your support. He also had made a plan with everyone in March to take down DEI in AAA gaming, and yeah, I mean, Ubisoft definitely went through a very bad year in 2024, and I don't think that 2025 is going to be much better. They have the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows. We're seeing the launch of games like Avowed. I think it's going to be another pretty rough year for the industry. I mean, it's not completely failing, right? It's made $208 billion in 2024, which is crazy, though it's not as much growth as they would have seen if developers were just creating good content. And hey, A lot of studios are going through layoffs, and that does suck to hear about because there are some decent people within this industry, but a lot of these individuals are activists, and I can't say I feel all that bad for them. So, yeah, the Steam replay is revealing that only 15% of total playtime was spent on new releases. And while I'm sure a portion of that is people going back and playing games like Apex Legends or CSGO, titles that people are going to constantly play for years and years and years on end, it's a really, really bad number to see. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.